I already love same-day delivery with Shipt, but it's so much better since I signed up for Target's Circle 360. Why? Because I no longer pay price markups from the majority of stores through Shipt. Only a handful of alcohol retailers and items don't count. That means no markups on groceries, pet food, even home goods and makeup. So to recap, I have more time to catch up on life while someone shops for me, and I spend less. It's a win-win. Order now at shipt.com/360. Terms apply.
This is the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
Welcome back, folks. I'm Roger Stone, and this is the Roger Stone Show at 77 WABC Radio. We are the crown jewel of talk radio. We are the crown jewel of AM radio. To be sure you don't miss any of the great entertainment or talk programming here at 77 WABC, make sure you go by the App Store and get that 77 WABC radio app so you don't miss a single second of the great programming we bring you here on the most influential and most powerful AM radio station in America today. We are honored to have with us today one of President Donald Trump's attorneys, to my mind, one of both his most effective and his most articulate attorneys, Alina Habba, who represented Donald Trump in the so-called valuations case that ended several weeks ago. She is not representing him on the ongoing so-called hush money case, but she is a spokesperson for him and continues to advise him legally on other matters. Alina Habba, we are very privileged to have you with us today.
The privilege is mine. Thanks, Roger.
So, I don't know, watching this whole thing, of course, unfold in New York City, I have a certain sense of deja vu. In my case, in the so-called Russian collusion hoax, where I was falsely accused of either Russian collusion or WikiLeaks collaboration, for which, of course, the government never produced any evidence at all. Not only was I gagged, but members of my family were gagged. Members of my family, my children, my wife, were not allowed to speak publicly at all. Of course, they weren't charged with any crime. The court's authority to gag them and limit their First Amendment rights was bizarre. But in this particular case, I just find it extraordinarily unfair that, for example, witnesses like Michael Cohen or Stormy Daniels or others, they're allowed to trash Donald Trump anywhere they want. Michael Cohen's actually making money on TikTok attacking Trump, but the president's not allowed to defend himself. That seems fundamentally unfair and un-American to me. What say you?
Yeah, it's a dual system of justice is exactly what it is. It's unconstitutional. So typically a gag order is to protect the defendant who's innocent until proven guilty and to make sure that the jury is not tainted. But what we have here is that the witnesses, the sources, moreover, of this case are able to speak loudly, speak on TV, speak to their bases. And, of course, that's the left-wing media. But anybody on the Trump team, on the conservative side, representing a former president, probably the future president, anybody on our side, we can't. We can't speak about certain items. And frankly, the items we can't speak about are the ones that are not very favorable to the Biden administration, discussing the corruption or talking about the credibility of witnesses. And that is a problem. And the president has said it time and time again when he comes out in the courtroom and he gets 2 minutes to talk to the press about what's actually going on in there. This is completely unconstitutional. This is the banana republic third world stuff, Roger. I mean, this is what happens. You go after your political opponent, you shut them up, you jail them, you jail their people, you go after them. It's targeting. And it's just, look, I don't know how we're going to stop it as Americans other than if President Trump wins and gets in there and cleans it up. But we cannot continue like this.
Before we leave the gag order, the judge said last week that he would impose, quote, an incarceratory punishment on Trump if the president continues to make public comments regarding the case. It sounds to me like this judge may actually be thinking about or considering putting a former president of the United States in jail prior to his being convicted of any fabricated crime. This is
Meanwhile, they're okay with the protests and everything happening in our country. That's okay. That free speech is okay when it's hate and hate-filled. But this, where somebody's truly on trial and trying to defend themselves, is okay. Is jail-worthy. I want to see what Alvin Bragg does with the people in New York that have been protesting and doing things and hate crimes right now. How's he going to treat them? Because he's got a 50+% rate of not convicting people. But when it comes to Donald Trump and a gag order that's completely unconstitutional, we got a judge threatening to put him in jail. For what? Saying that one of the witnesses has no credibility? That's jail-worthy in this state? I mean, it makes absolutely no sense.
Since we both agree that the gag order is unconstitutional, nowhere does it say that if you are charged with a crime, you forfeit your First Amendment rights.
Right.
Is the president unable to appeal the gag order, or is it just that it cannot be done in a timely enough fashion to impact the conduct of this trial?
Yeah, I think that's the issue, right? Appeals take time, and I learned this. Obviously, there are emergent applications that we can do, but there is not a stone that the team is not turning. You know, they really are a great legal team down there, and they're doing what they need to do. But you've got, you know, a team at one point that's in the criminal court in trial, and then we're sending lawyers to the appellate division to file things. It's insane. And it's very much what we dealt with Letitia James, the same thing every week in the appellate division, trying to get a grasp on constitutionalness and trying to appeal to those judges who are higher up and say, guys, help us here. We've got an unhinged situation. We need you to step in and correct what is happening in the ongoing trial. The problem you have, though, with this case, Roger, is that there is a jury, and these decisions are being made in front of a jury. So even if we undo things, the jury sees it. And everyone knows, no matter what you tell the jury, that they're looking at the news. You know, they're definitely looking. And at the end of the day, we got to be careful. You know, this is supposed to be impartial. We need them to stay impartial. We need the jury and the courtroom to be clean and out, and there should be no bias in there so that they can just listen to the witnesses and apply facts to the law, because President Trump did nothing wrong. So if we can get that, he will win.
Folks, if you're just tuning in, this is the Roger Stone Show at 77 WABC Radio, and we are talking to Alina Habba, who is one of President Donald Trump's attorneys. We're talking specifically about the New York so-called hush money case currently being tried in Manhattan. This judge, this kind of confounds me. First of all, the judge personally gave a campaign contribution to Joe Biden's presidential campaign. Now, it was only $15, but I think that is immaterial. The judicial canon of ethics says in New York State that judges are not supposed to give political contributions to anybody, Republican or Democrat. Yet the judge betrays his bias with this contribution. That alone, in my opinion, should have given him the good sense to recuse himself and let this case go to a different judge. And then we learned that the judge's daughter, who is an adult, is a Democrat fundraising consultant who has raised millions of dollars for her clients, including the Biden-Harris campaign, using this trial as the focal point of her fundraising appeals. Therefore, it seems to me that Judge Merchant has a direct financial conflict of interest here with a member of his family. Strike two. Evidently, this judge wants his 15 minutes. He wants to be hailed at his private club as the man who took down Donald Trump, because his conduct in this trial so far, including both a refusal to recuse himself and a denial of the motion to move the venue to someplace less biased in terms of jury selection than Manhattan, both denied. Extraordinary.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's part of the problem with the system, is that we're bringing these motions to recuse. You have to bring them to the judges themselves that need to recuse. So you say it to them and say, hey, we think you shouldn't be on this case. But if you're motivated to be on the case and you're getting a claim, or you have some financial motivation, or a family member does, that that should ethically put you in a position where you should recuse, but they won't. And I think that the system we've seen repeatedly is a little bit broken. We filed those same motions with other judges in other cases for President Trump, where we found out that they were, donating or campaigning on getting Trump, things like that. And we've seen it be denied, and then we have to appeal it. And again, you're waiting, and the trial's still moving. So, yeah, I think the system really needs to reevaluate. I will say, in general, I think there's a problem with the whole recusal process, because, trying to get somebody who's motivated to stay on the case to recuse himself is incredibly difficult.
No, I think you're exactly right. I went through this process myself. The judge imposed a very broad gag order on me at my trial. I appealed it to the D.C. Court of Appeals. They sat on it for 16 months without a ruling, and then the days before the trial was to open, they ruled that it wasn't ripe because I hadn't first asked the judge who imposed the gag order on me, the trial court judge, to remove it, which of course she never would have done anyway. It just kind of shows you how the system is stacked. Let's go back for a moment, if we may, to the so-called valuations case, where I think you did a brilliant job of presenting the president's defense. As I understand it, the president and his organization, the Trump organization, went out and they borrowed money from various banks. They put up certain collateral for those banks. While they did give a valuation for that collateral, the banks did their own due diligence, did their own appraisal, made a decision based on that due diligence that this was a good loan, lent the money, got paid back on time, some cases even early, with $40 million in interest that they made. Where's the crime? Who are the victims?
There was no crime. Yeah, there was no bamboozling. There was no crime. That's another case that we've seen already. The appellate division has given us some legs a little bit, but we got to keep going on that, because the reality is we have an attorney general who ran on getting Trump. That was before she had any information about the president or his company or his family. She completely, was motivated by politics. It's not a question. It's a fact. Look at what she was screaming on the streets of New York before she got elected. Get Trump. I'm going to get Trump. She did just that. She tried to. And yeah, nobody lost money. We were dealing with sophisticated banks, sophisticated lenders who truly were doing the right thing and did their own due diligence, made money. And they're saying, oh, well, no, they didn't make money and we have to protect consumers because this is fraud. Well, what's the fraud? They gave their values, then the banks go do their own due diligence. Plus, we had something called the president calls it a worthless clause. It's a waiver right in the front saying you should do your own due diligence. These are what we think they're worth. Go out there, do your work, get your appraisers, do whatever you want to do. And by the way, these banks, they would have done that anyway. They don't take what a borrower, they don't take our numbers. Nobody does. That's like saying my house is worth $5 million and them just lending me money on that. They do due diligence. So the whole thing was ridiculous. They used a statute that was for commercial division, and we were in a civil judge with a judge that truly has ruled against us for years. And that's another thing they do. They judge shop, and it's a problem. We shouldn't have even been in that court. I could go on for that one for days. I literally was on that case before it was a case, when it was a special proceeding for years. And it's the treatment that we got in there was truly awful. President Trump's family and company has made New York better. They've changed the skyline. They pay hundreds of millions of dollars in employee contributions, taxes, and to be treated so disrespectfully for doing absolutely nothing wrong but creating jobs, it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't know who she was protecting there.
I must say, from a national point of view, although I recognize it was extraordinarily expensive for the president and his family, they had to raise a huge amount of money of cash for a bond, entirely unfair. In the country, because this was a simple case and easy to understand, I actually think the president benefited from it politically. People looked at it and said, this is unfair. He hasn't done anything wrong. He borrowed money. He paid it back with interest. Where is the fraud?
Well, I think it's scary. It frightened a lot of business owners, Roger. They're looking at this going, well, what the heck? So now the attorney general can just go into a private contract with two sophisticated companies and say, we don't like the terms of your agreement, and we're going to just put our nose in and then fine them for the hell of it and call it that it's in the best interest of New York. No, it's not. What's in the best interest of New York is helping people walk the streets safely and getting all these migrants off the streets and cleaning up our drug problems and our problems with our children who are currently anti-Semitic and doing crazy things in New York. That's where their focus is supposed to be. But instead, we got courts after courts with how many police officers sitting guard for what? The President Trump's trials, his Biden trials, that's what we're seeing. It's just crazy. They're really doing the citizens of New York a disservice.
I think you and I both agree. The whole point here, of course, is that they don't really care about how they get a conviction of Donald Trump for something. They also don't care that conviction will later be overturned on appeal, because they recognize that if they can get a conviction before the election, it will serve their purposes. Their purposes being threefold. One, to drain the president's time and focus. He's got to sit in a courtroom when he should be out campaigning. He is the leading candidate for president. He is the first man in the history of the Republican Party to nail down the presidential nomination 3 times. Only one other president has done that. He continues to lead in both the swing states and nationally. So they seek to drain his time and focus. They seek to drain his money because he has to pay all these lawyers. By the way, the Democratic National Committee is paying Joe Biden's legal expenses pertaining to the special counsel investigating his illegal retention of top secret and classified papers. They obviously seek to blacken his name through leaks, through attacks from the witnesses, through the fake news media at a time that his hands are tied behind his back. The timing of this is all what's most curious to me.
Yeah, it's not coincidental. It's 100% election interference, as we've seen, so that he's not on the campaign trail, so that he's tied up. But then look at what he did yesterday. He hit 2 states in one day when most people would be resting. That's just who he is. So, they keep trying to stop him, Roger. You and I know that, but it only makes him stronger.
People who have never, which is most people, obviously, people who've never worked on a presidential campaign or any campaign, I don't think understand how all-consuming it is. The fact that the president did 2 rallies at the end of the week in the same day, that's a backbreaker for a man who's 45. Believe me, his energy level, his stamina, his optimism, the way he keeps a good humor through this all it's really quite extraordinary. If you don't know him, you know him, I know him. The American people, they know him better than they think, because the Trump you see is the real Trump. In other words, unlike some phony politicians, there isn't one Trump in private and another Trump in public. He's one person. He is what you see is what you get. He's straight up. He's not always eloquent, but he's always articulate. You always know exactly where he stands. And his stamina level just drives me. It's just very impressive. It's extraordinarily impressive. We are here with Alina Habba. You're listening to the Roger Stone Show, and we will be right back.
Build professional skills this semester with Adobe Creative Cloud and create standout work both in and out of the classroom. Save big on professional creativity tools. Students get 65% off Adobe Creative Cloud, including Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, Acrobat Pro, and 20 plus creative apps. No matter what project you're working on, Adobe Creative Cloud apps can help you take it to the next level. Visit adobe.com/student to learn more.
In golf, precision is everything, on and off the course. PGA of America chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business for smooth operations and seamless transactions. Together, we enhance ticketing and concessions for better fan experiences from gate to green. This is pro-level efficiency. This is PGA of America with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel? Or that white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
This episode is brought to you by Factor. Optimize your nutrition this year with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal service. Factor's fresh, never-frozen meals are dietitian approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from 40 weekly options across 8 dietary preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Eat smarter at factormeals.com/listen50 and use code listen50 for 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factormeals.com/listen50. Code listen50. Terms and conditions apply.
Alina Habba, always really great. Well, as I promised you in the beginning of the show, I would give you my mother's own family recipe, which of course means her grandmother's recipe for clams and linguine. This was always one of my father's great favorites. It's an extraordinarily simple dish, but it's actually a dish that is really easy to screw up. Some people, for example, add cream or milk to it. This would never pass muster in our home. So here it is. You need 2 cans of minced high-quality clams with juice. You need, I would say, a pound of linguine. I prefer Barilla or De Secco. I find Buitoni to be kind of the Budweiser of pastas, but that's just a personal preference. 1.4 cups of unsalted butter, a half cup of olive oil, 1/2 tablespoon of minced garlic, Calabrian chili paste, some white wine, about a half a cup, freshly ground black pepper, which you will need, and I think you need 10 to 12 clams. Now, these could be little necks or they could be Manila clams. The Manila clams is kind of a West Coast phenomena. They can even be small cherry stones. But the first thing you do, of course, is to take the clams, all the clams, put them in a prep bowl and cover them with cool tap water. Let the clams sit for 30 minutes. You want to give them a good shake every 10 or 15 minutes to expel any dirt. If there is any excess dirt on the outside, drain and re-scrub. Now, most of the clams that you're going to buy in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area are farmed, so they'll be relatively clean. Anyway, you put them aside. Now, in a large skillet, you will heat the butter, the olive oil over a medium heat. Once that is melted, you will add the garlic and some of that Calabrian chili paste, just a dab, really, and cook until the garlic is fragrant in about 60 seconds, really. Then you add the half a cup to a cup of white wine, pepper. You will increase the heat slightly, and you'll cook until all of that mixture is bubbling. If you need to add a bit of water at that point, you can, because at that point you're going to add the clams. You're going to increase the heat. You're going to cover the pot just until the clams open. Should be about 3 minutes. Now, if any of the clams don't open, discard them and transfer the open clams to the pot where you're going to put the pasta. You want to taste the sauce and adjust the salt and pepper as needed at that point. Now, warm through over medium heat, adding the reserved pasta water as needed to make it a little wetter. That's the other alternative to adding water earlier in that recipe. Garnish the linguine a bit and clams with extra herbs and served as needed. That's what, by all means, my mother's all-time favorite. As I said earlier, Margot Katzimatidis wants me to take this combination of Hungarian and Italian recipes that I've been revealing every week here on the Roger Stone Show and develop a 77 WABC cookbook. I'm, as I said earlier, half Italian and half Italian. Let's just say I'm Italian from the waist down. And I grew up in a family that had both Italian, American, and Hungarian American culture. Adam Carolla, the famous comedian, is also half Italian, half Hungarian. I had an uncle. It's even more extreme than that. I'm not just Italian. I'm actually Sicilian. My people, the Corvos, coming from Sicily. I had an uncle who said, well, you're half Hungarian and you're half Italian, which means you're very sentimental when you stab people in the chest. It was a running family joke. Last here on the Roger Stone Show, I gave you my mother's incredible recipe for Hungarian stuffed cabbage. If you had the 77 WABC radio app, you could easily go back and listen to it. I got a lot of very favorable coverage. Also, very pleased with the fact that since we had Mike Crispy of the Italian American Civil Rights League and also the host of Late Night with Mike Crispy over at Rumble on the show, membership in the Italian American Civil Rights League has increased. You can find more about this, but in essence, they've already removed the statue of Christopher Columbus in Baltimore and in other cities. And the New York City Council continues to talk about removing Christopher Columbus from the Big Apple. And that would be an insult to every Italian American in the city and in the country. It is anti-Italian bias. It's part of this woke culture decision to bury our heritage, to bury and erase our history. And the Italian American Civil Rights League, which is a nonprofit organization which has no overhead, in which no one who's involved makes a penny, in which everybody working on our projects, including legal action if necessary, to bar the city from removing Christopher Columbus from New York City, the statue of him, is growing. You can reach us. I'm a member, proud of it. You can reach us by going to IACRL, Italian American Civil Rights League.org. We are a nonprofit organization, but we are going to fight every appropriate and legal way to defend Italian American culture. Talking about the great contributions that Italian Americans, or Italians, but Italian Americans have made to sports, to culture, to everything that makes America great. So I invite you to go by there. And salutations for Mike Crispy. Almost 79 new members signed up last week after his appearance here on the show. Anyway, I'm very proud to be in the 77 WABC family. I thank you for listening to the Roger Stone Show this beautiful Sunday, and I urge you to hold on for my friend Joe Piscopo. Joe's quite a crooner himself, and he brings you the very best of old Blue Eyes, even though Joe's got a hell of a set of pipes of his own. But he'll be right along in a moment with Sundays with Sinatra.